Someone goes quiet, and suddenly you start talking. You fill the space. You explain yourself. You apologize. You offer things you never planned to give. And the whole time, they haven't said a single word. That silence wasn't accidental. It was a weapon, and you just handed them exactly what they wanted. Most people think manipulation looks loud. They imagine someone arguing, pressuring, threatening. But the most effective form of psychological control doesn't make a sound. It waits, it watches, and it lets your own mind do all the work. This is called strategic silence, and it is one of the oldest, most powerful, and least understood manipulation tools in human psychology. You've encountered it. Maybe in a negotiation, maybe in a relationship, maybe in a moment where someone just stared at you after you said something, and you felt this unbearable need to keep talking, to fix something, to smooth something over, even though nothing had technically gone wrong. That feeling, that pull, has a name. Psychologists call it the discomfort of silence, and understanding it might be the most important thing you can do to protect yourself. Here's where it begins. The human brain evolved in social environments where silence from another person was dangerous. If someone in your tribe went quiet after you spoke, it usually meant one of two things: rejection or threat. Both were survival risks. Both required immediate action. So your nervous system learned to treat silence as a problem to be solved. It triggers the same low-level anxiety response as an unresolved conflict. It makes you feel like something is broken between you and another person, and it pushes you to fix it immediately. Dr. Robert Cialdini, the researcher behind influence, the psychology of persuasion, documented this dynamic across dozens of behavioral studies. When silence follows a social exchange, the person who spoke last almost always feels compelled to speak again, to clarify, to expand, to soften. The person who stays silent gains what he called conversational leverage, a dominant position they achieved by doing absolutely nothing. Think about that. Doing nothing gave them power over you. Now imagine someone who knows this, someone who uses it on purpose. That's the silence trap. The mechanics are simple but devastating. You say something, an offer, an opinion, a request. The other person says nothing, just holds eye contact, lets the moment stretch, and within seconds your brain starts generating explanations for their silence. Did they not understand? Did you offend them? Did you say the wrong thing? Was your offer too low? Too high? Were you too direct? Too vague? You don't know, and that uncertainty is unbearable. So you fill it. You revise your offer. You add concessions. You walk back a confident statement. You apologize for something you didn't do. You volunteer information you had no reason to share. All because of silence. This is not a hypothetical. This is documented, studied, and deliberately trained. In professional negotiation training, strategic silence is sometimes called the golden pause. Chris Voss, former FBI hostage negotiator and author of Never Split the Difference, teaches it as one of the most effective tools in any negotiation. His principle: after the other side makes a statement, resist the urge to respond. Let silence do the work. Watch what the other person reveals when discomfort forces them to keep talking. Voss used this in high-stakes hostage situations. Negotiators used it against armed criminals. It worked, not because of clever arguments, because of quiet. Now that same technique is being used against you in job interviews, in sales conversations, in romantic relationships, in arguments with people who know your psychological pressure points better than you do. And here's the part that makes it so hard to defend against. The silence feels like it's your fault. That's not a coincidence. That's design. When someone gives you strategic silence after you speak, your brain doesn't say, "They are manipulating me." Your brain says, "I did something wrong." You internalize the discomfort. You assume responsibility for fixing the tension. And the more you try to fix it, the more information and power you hand over. Dr. Adam Grant, organizational psychologist at the Wharton School, describes this as a form of social asymmetry, where one person's stillness forces the other person to become emotionally and verbally overextended. The still person gains information. The talking person loses strategic position. And the worst part is that it's almost impossible to stop once you're inside it. The pressure builds automatically. Your mouth opens, and the words come out before you've decided to say them. Sound familiar? There's a reason this pattern appears in so many different contexts: interrogations, negotiations, toxic relationships, cult environments, abusive dynamics. In police interrogations, silence is deliberately used to extract confessions. Studies have shown that even innocent people will begin to fill silence with self-incriminating statements simply because the discomfort of not speaking becomes intolerable. They say things they don't mean. They agree with things they know aren't true, all because silence felt worse than lying about themselves. Let that land for a moment. Innocent people confess to things they didn't do because they couldn't handle silence. Now think about the smaller scale version of this happening in your own life. Think about the last time someone's silence made you over-explain yourself. Walk back something you believed. Say sorry when you had nothing to apologize for. Offer more than you intended. Stay longer than you planned. Accept something you didn't want. That was the trap. And you didn't even see the door close behind you. But it goes deeper than just silence in conversation. There is another layer to this manipulation that most people never notice. It's called selective silence. This is when someone uses silence, not just in the moment, but as a sustained behavioral tool. They go quiet for hours, days. They withdraw emotional communication. They stop responding to messages. They become unavailable, not because something is wrong with the connection, but because they want to engineer a specific emotional state in you. That emotional state is anxiety, specifically attachment anxiety. When someone you care about goes silent, your brain does not process it calmly. The same primitive alarm system fires. You start scrolling back through your recent interactions, searching for the thing you did. You rehearse apologies. You feel the irrational urge to reach out and reestablish connection at almost any cost. This is why the silent treatment is considered a form of psychological manipulation by most relationship researchers. It is not a healthy communication break. It is a power move, and it exploits the deepest part of your social brain, the part that cannot tolerate disconnection from people it has attached to. Dr. Niobe Way, developmental psychologist at New York University, documented in her research how the fear of relational loss is one of the most powerful motivators in human behavior. More powerful, in many cases, than fear of physical harm. People will endure enormous psychological discomfort to avoid relational silence from someone they love. Manipulators know this. They learn it through trial and error, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. Some people who use silence as a weapon have never read a psychology textbook in their lives. They simply discovered, early in their development, that going quiet gave them control, that withdrawing attention caused the people around them to work harder, offer more, and become more emotionally pliable. And they kept doing it because it worked. That's the part that should make you think carefully. Because not every silence is a trap. Not every quiet moment is a weapon. Sometimes people need to process. Sometimes silence means respect. Sometimes it means someone is genuinely thinking, not controlling. The difference is in the pattern. Manipulative silence has a consistent outcome. It always shifts power away from you and toward them. It always ends when you've given something: an apology, a concession, an emotional capitulation. It is always followed, eventually, by a re-engagement that reinforces their position, and it tends to escalate. The more you respond to their silence with anxiety and accommodation, the longer and more frequent the silences become. Because they've learned that silence works on you. So how do you escape it? The first move is the hardest. You have to resist the pull. When someone goes silent and you feel that familiar surge of discomfort pushing you to speak, don't. Just sit with it. Not because you're playing a game, but because you need to interrupt the automatic response your nervous system has been running. The urge to fill silence is physical. It will feel urgent. It will feel like something bad is about to happen if you don't speak. That feeling is not information. That feeling is a conditioned reflex. Let it pass. The second move is to reframe the silence in your mind. Instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" ask, "What is this silence trying to take from me?" Shift from self-blame to pattern recognition. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a person in a dynamic, and dynamics can be named. The third move is to give silence back, not as a weapon, not as retaliation, but as a neutral, confident holding of your own position. After you've said what you meant to say, stay quiet. Let the silence belong to both of you equally. If they're using silence to wait for you to fold, give them nothing to catch. Say what you meant. Mean what you said. Then stop. This is harder than it sounds, but every time you do it, the grip of strategic silence loosens a little more. And eventually, you stop being someone silence works on. The last thing to understand is this: silence is not inherently dark. The same quiet that manipulators use as a weapon is also something you can use as a tool for clarity, for composure, for presence. Some of the most powerful communicators in the world speak very little. They choose their words. They let moments breathe. They don't rush to fill every gap. The difference between silence as power and silence as control is intent and awareness. Once you know the mechanism, it loses most of its grip. You can't fully control when your nervous system fires that familiar alarm, but you can choose what you do with it. You can notice the pull, name it, and decide not to follow it. That is not a small thing. Most people spend their entire lives running from the discomfort of silence without ever asking why, without ever realizing they're being moved by something invisible, without ever understanding that the most effective manipulation in a room sometimes makes no sound at all. Someone goes quiet, and now you know exactly what's happening.